Stepmom made my life a living hell. When she asked for my kidney to save her life, I had the last word. I asked her, "Is this the stepmother who cheated on my dad?" And then, I always thought my family was pretty solid growing up. Sure, my parents fought like anyone else, but I never thought my dad would cheat. He was the family man type, or so I thought. Then Emma came into our lives and everything went downhill. It started when I was 17. My parents seemed happy, or at least content. My mom, Lisa, was strong-willed, warm, and the kind of person to whom everyone naturally gravitated. My dad, Alan, was quieter but dependable. This dynamic worked, until it didn't. One day I came home from school early because of a cancelled class. I remember hearing quiet voices coming from the kitchen. My dad was there, and so was Emma. She was a younger woman who worked in my dad's office, someone he mentioned in passing before, but the way they talked wasn't normal. The way she laughed at something he said, leaning just a little too close, told me more than I wanted to know. I didn't confront him right away. I wasn't even sure what I had seen, but I guess I didn't have to. A month later, my mother found out about the affair. I don't know how she found out, but when she did, she didn't stick around to play games. She packed her bags, took my sister Stacy, who was only 13 at the time, and left. I could have gone with her, but I didn't. Not because I didn't love my mom, but because I thought my dad didn't know I'd figured out what he was doing. I thought if I stayed, I could somehow keep him grounded. But the reality was, I just didn't want to leave the house I grew up in. That's when Emma moved in. My dad wasted no time getting engaged to her, and before I could even wrap my head around how fast it happened, she was living with us. And let me tell you, she was everything you'd want in a horrible stepmother. Emma was arrogant, selfish, and a total narcissist. She acted like marrying my dad made her the queen of the house. She'd make snide comments about how I should respect her as a parent, because she was now my father's wife. I was 19, an adult, and she was barely in her early 30s. The idea of taking orders from her was ridiculous. I tried to ignore her as much as I could, but Emma had a way of getting under my skin. She was constantly criticizing me, complaining about how messy I wasn't, and telling me I needed to grow up, while she mooched off my dad's paycheck. The worst part was the way she treated my dad. He adored her for some reason I'll never understand, but she treated him like dirt. She'd berate him for the smallest things and belittle him in front of me. She even joked once that he was like her child, and that it was her job to keep him in line. The man who raised me, who I'd always respected, just sat there and took it. It was unbearable, but I stuck around, hoping things would get better. Spoiler, they didn't. One night, after another one of her snide remarks, I complained to my dad. I told him I was tired of the way Emma was treating me, and to my surprise, he actually took my side. He told Emma to back off and stop acting like she was my mother. They fought that night, loudly, and I stayed in my room, feeling guilty for causing it, but also relieved that someone was finally calling her out. Things didn't get better though. Emma doubled down and made my life miserable in every way she could think of. She'd accidentally throw away my stuff, tell lies about me to my dad, and find ways to get under my skin. I hated being in that house, but I had nowhere else to go. Then, about 2 years later, Emma's health began to fail. She'd been diabetic for years, but it was getting worse. At first, I admit I didn't care. It's hard to feel sorry for someone who has spent so much time making you miserable. But when she was diagnosed with diabetic nephropathy, things started to get serious. Her condition worsened over the months, and finally the doctors told her that her best chance was a kidney transplant. That's when my dad and Emma came to me with a request I never saw coming. That's when it all began. The first time my dad mentioned it, I thought he was joking. We were sitting in the living room, me scrolling through my phone, him looking uncharacteristically nervous. So, he began, clearing his throat. I wanted to talk to you about something serious. I looked up and braced myself. Whenever he started with that tone, it was never good news. What is it? It's about Emma. I rolled my eyes. Of course it was about Emma. It was always about Emma. What is it now? She needs a kidney. I paused, not sure if I'd heard him right. A kidney? Like a transplant? Yeah. He hesitated, avoiding eye contact. The doctors say hers is failing, and it's getting worse. They've tried treatments, but nothing's working. She needs a donor. I stared at him, waiting for him to get to the point. Okay. And? Well, they tested me. I'm not a match. None of your family is either. I let that sink in for a second. So, what does that have to do with me? He finally looked at me. We were hoping you'd get tested. Just to see if you're a match. You're young, healthy, there's a chance. I laughed, more in disbelief than anything else. You want me to give her a kidney? She's your stepmother, he said, as if that explained everything. She's not my stepmother. She's the woman who made my life a living hell for 2 years. Now you want me to give her a kidney? She's my wife. He shot back, his voice firm. I love her, and I can't lose her. I wanted to yell at him, tell him how ridiculous this was, but instead I just sat there stunned. She's been through a lot, he added, as if that would sway me. She's sick, and she's scared. We're all scared. Just think about it. That's all I'm asking. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I got up and walked to my room, slamming the door behind me. A week later, I found myself in a hospital, being poked and prodded by a team of doctors. I wasn't doing it for Emma, I was just trying to prove I wasn't a match so they'd leave me alone. But of course, life has a twisted sense of humor. You are a perfect match, the doctor told me. Your health is excellent, and your tissue compatibility is ideal. If you're willing, you'd make an excellent donor. I sat there in shock. A perfect match? How was that even possible? When I got home, my father and Emma were waiting for me in the living room. She looked frail, thinner than usual, and her usually smug expression had been replaced by something softer. Almost desperate. Well? My dad asked. I sighed. I'm a match. Emma's eyes lit up, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. That's great news, she said, her voice trembling. Thank you so much. Wait, I interrupted. I didn't say I'd do it. Their expressions changed instantly. My dad looked confused, and Emma's jaw dropped. What do you mean you won't do it? My dad asked. I mean exactly what I said. I'm not giving her my kidney. Why not? Emma demanded, her voice rising. You're a match. You could save my life. And why would I do that? I shot back. After all you've put me through? Do you think I owe you anything? My dad stepped in. This isn't about the past. This is about saving someone's life. You can't just stand by and let them die. I could feel my blood boiling. You don't get it, do you? You're asking me to risk my health, my life for someone who's treated me like garbage since the day she moved in. Why would I do that? She's your family, he said quietly. No, she's your family, I snapped. Not mine. The room fell silent. Emma looked like she was going to cry, but I didn't care. For once, I was the one in charge, and it felt good. I'll think about it, I said finally, just to get her off my back. But don't give your hopes up. I did think about it. For a long time. And the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Not only at Emma, but also at my father. He'd let her take over our lives, let her treat me like I didn't matter, and now he wanted me to sacrifice a part of myself for her. I started to notice little things I hadn't paid attention to before. Like how Emma's phone would light up with texts from someone named Big Bob whenever my dad wasn't around. Or how she'd suddenly have work meetings that went on for hours and never seemed to lead to anything productive. When I noticed Emma's phone lighting up with texts from Big Bob, I couldn't stop looking at it. It was like every time I looked in her direction, there it was another message. At first I brushed it off, thinking it was probably just a coworker or friend. but the way she grabbed her phone and covered the screen every time my dad walked into the room. Yeah, that didn't sit right with me. So one night, when she left her phone charging in the kitchen, I decided to take a look. I know, snooping is wrong, but let's face it, Emma never deserved the benefit of the doubt. Her phone didn't even have a passcode, which was almost insulting. I scrolled through her messages with Big Bob, and within seconds my stomach turned. The texts weren't just flirty, they were explicit. They talked about meetings, hotel stays, and, well, things I'd rather not repeat. One message stood out though. Can't wait to see you tomorrow after your doctor's appointment. Same place, 3 p.m.? I hung up the phone, my hands shaking. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. That was all the confirmation I needed. The next day I told my dad I was going out for a while. He barely looked up from his coffee, too busy doting on Emma, who lay on the couch like a fragile princess. I had already made up my mind I was going to follow her. At exactly 2:45 p.m., I parked near a small boutique hotel on the edge of town. Sure enough, a few minutes later, Emma pulled up in her car. She got out and looked around nervously before going inside. I waited about 10 minutes before following her inside. The receptionist barely looked up as I walked by. It wasn't hard to figure out which room she was in. Big Bob was waiting at the end of the hall, leaning casually against the doorframe. He was exactly what I'd imagined, a middle-aged guy with a beer gut and a smug grin. Emma greeted him with a kiss and they disappeared into the room together. I didn't need to see anything else. That evening I sat across from my father in the living room. Emma was in the kitchen, probably scrolling through her phone as usual. Dad, I started, trying to keep my voice steady. We need to talk. He looked up, worried. What's wrong? It's about Emma. He sighed, already annoyed. What now? She's cheating on you. His face froze. What? She's cheating on you, I repeated. With some guy named Big Bob. I saw the texts on her phone, and I followed her today. I watched her meet him in a hotel. The color drained from his face. For a moment I thought he was going to yell at me or call me a liar, but instead he just sat there, staring at me. Are you sure? He finally asked. Positive. Before I could say anything else, Emma entered the room. She must have sensed the tension because she stopped and looked between us. What's going on? She asked. I didn't say a word. I just looked at my dad, waiting to see what he'd do. Is it true? He asked her, his voice barely above a whisper. She frowned. What are you talking about? Are you cheating on me? Emma's face twisted into a mixture of shock and anger. What? Of course not. Where is this coming from? I couldn't hold back anymore. Don't even try to lie, Emma. I saw the texts. I saw you with him at the hotel today. Her mouth opened and shut like a fish out of water. For once, she had nothing to say. My dad stood up, his fists clenched at his sides. Is it true? He asked again, louder this time. Emma finally broke down. Okay, fine. Yes, I've been seeing someone else. But you were so busy with work and taking care of me you neglected me. What was I supposed to do? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was actually trying to blame him for cheating on her. You've got to be kidding me, I muttered. My dad looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. He didn't say anything, he just turned and walked out of the room. Emma tried to follow him, but I blocked her path. You ruined everything, she hissed at me. No, I said, glaring at her. You did it all by yourself. For the next few days, the house was a war zone. My dad and Emma fought constantly, and I stayed out of the way as much as I could. I thought this would finally be the end of their relationship, but then something happened that I didn't see coming. My dad forgave her. According to him, Emma had explained everything, how she needed constant male attention because of her insecurities, and how it was his fault for being away so much. And he bought it. He really bought it. I was done. I told my dad I couldn't live in that house anymore, and I moved into a small apartment I'd been saving up for. It wasn't much, but it was mine, and for the first time in years I felt free. I thought I'd wash my hands of the whole mess, but of course life had other plans. Moving out was supposed to be my clean break, but it wasn't. I still talked to my dad occasionally, mostly out of obligation, and every conversation somehow ended up coming back to Emma. How she was getting worse. How they were still struggling to find a kidney donor. How much he was sacrificing to take care of her. I didn't care. Or at least I told myself I didn't. A month after I moved out, I got a call from my dad. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "I need you to come over," he said. His voice sounded strange, tired, shaky. "Why?" I asked, already regretting answering. "It's important. Please." Reluctantly, I agreed. When I arrived at the house, Emma was nowhere to be seen. My dad was sitting at the dining room table with a drink in his hand, staring off into space. "What's going on?" I asked. He looked up at me and I could tell he'd been crying. "I found something," he said. He handed me a stack of papers. At first I didn't understand what I was looking at: medical records, prescriptions, bills. And then I saw it, Big Bob's name. "What is this?" I asked. "It's a bill from the private doctor she's been seeing," he said, his voice cracking. "For treatments. Treatments he paid for." It hit me like a freight train. Emma wasn't just cheating on Big Bob, she was using him to cover her medical expenses. "She told me she was skipping appointments because we couldn't afford them," my dad continued. "But she was seeing him all the time, and he was paying for everything." I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. "So let me get this straight. The guy she's cheating with is also her sugar daddy?" My dad winced at the term, but didn't deny it. "Why are you still with her?" I asked, genuinely confused. "She's sick," he said quietly. "I can't just leave her." I wanted to shake him. "She left you the moment she started screwing around behind your back. And now she's got some other guy footing the bill for her treatments while you break your back trying to save her?" He didn't answer, and that's when I realized I couldn't save him either. A few weeks later, Emma's health took a turn for the worse. She was in and out of the hospital, and my dad started calling me more often, asking if I'd reconsider donating my kidney. "Absolutely not," I told him each time. Then one day I got a message from Emma herself. I didn't even know she had my number. "Can we talk? Just us?" I should have ignored it, but something about it piqued my curiosity. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop, thinking it would be a disaster, but I wasn't prepared for what she said. "I know you don't like me," she began, her voice weak and shaky. "And I know I haven't been the best stepmother. But I'm begging you, please, just consider helping me. I don't want to die." I stared at her, trying to find an ounce of sincerity in her words. "Why don't you ask Big Bob?" I said, leaning back in my chair. "He seems more than willing to help." She didn't deny it. Instead, she started to cry. "It's not what you think. He offered to help, and I didn't know what else to do. Your dad couldn't afford it, and dash. You can't blame this on him." I snapped. "You lied to him for years. Why should I risk my life for someone who treats him like dirt, and then runs to another man when the going gets tough?" She reached across the table and took my hand. "Please," she whispered. "I'll do anything. Just please." I pulled my hand away in disgust. "The answer is no. And if you really cared about my dad, you'd leave and stop dragging him down with you." I walked away without looking back. That should have been the end of it, but things got even crazier. A few days later, my dad called me in a panic. "Emma's gone," he said. "Gone? What do you mean, gone?" "She left. Packed her things and disappeared. She didn't even leave a note." I wanted to say good riddance, but something didn't sit right with me. Why would she leave now, when she was so sick? I decided to look into it, and what I found shocked me. Emma hadn't just left, she'd emptied out their joint savings account before she left. Over $20,000 gone. "She took everything," my father said, his voice hollow. "Everything I worked for." I should have felt sorry for him, but all I felt was relief. Maybe now he'd finally see her for who she really was. But then, 2 weeks later, Emma returned. And this time she wasn't alone. She brought Big Bob with her. I thought my dad would lose his mind. He called me right after it happened, his voice shaking with anger and disbelief. "She brought him here," he said. "To our house." I couldn't believe it either. "What do you mean she brought him here? What's he doing?" "She said she needed help, that Bob was here to support her recovery. She just walked in like nothing happened and told me I should be grateful that he was stepping up where I wouldn't." I drove over to the house, more out of morbid curiosity than anything else. When I got there, I couldn't believe what I saw. Big Bob was sitting on the couch, feet up on the coffee table, acting like he owned the place. Emma was in the kitchen, casually chatting with my dad as if she hadn't just drained his bank account and left him. I walked in and the room fell silent. "What's he doing here?" I asked, pointing at Bob. Emma sighed, as if I was the unreasonable one. "I told your father Bob is here to help me through my recovery. He's been so supportive." I looked at my dad, expecting him to explode, but he just stood there, defeated. "She says he's only staying for a little while," he muttered. "A little while? Are you kidding me?" I turned back to Emma. "You steal from him, cheat on him, and now you're moving your boyfriend into his house. How low can you go?" "It's not like that," Emma said, trying to sound innocent. "Bob's just a friend." "Yeah, right," I said, glaring at Bob. "Is that why you've been sneaking off to hotels with him?" "Just a friend." Bob finally spoke up, his voice as smug as his expression. "Look, kid, I don't know what your problem is, but Emma's been through a lot. Maybe you should show some compassion." I laughed bitterly. "Compassion? For her? She's been nothing but a parasite on this family, and now she's dragging you into it. You deserve each other." Emma started to say something, but I cut her off. "No, I'm done. I'm done with this circus. Dad, if you want to keep letting her walk all over you, that's your choice, but I'm not sticking around to watch." My dad didn't say anything, and that hurt more than anything Emma or Bob could have said. I made my decision that night. I packed up the rest of my things and left my rented apartment. I called my mom and asked if I could stay with her and Stacy for a while. She didn't even hesitate. When I got to their house, it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. My mom gave me a big hug and Stacy ran up to me like she hadn't seen me in years. "It's so good to have you here," my mom said. "You don't have to deal with this anymore." And she was right. As for my dad, well, things weren't so good for him. About a month after I left, Emma and Bob left again, this time for good. They cleaned out what little money my dad had left, leaving him with nothing but debt and heartbreak. He called me a few weeks later, apologized for everything and asked if he could come visit. I told him I'd think about it, but the truth was I needed space. I couldn't keep putting myself in the middle of his bad decisions. Now I live with my mom and Stacy, and for the first time in years I feel like I can breathe. My relationship with my dad is distant but civil, and I've shut Emma and Big Bob out of every corner of my life. I don't know where they are now, and honestly I don't care. I just hope they never show their faces around here again.